Hello and welcome to another Shadow Lair run. This time I'm doing Ice Queen. And I'd like to show you my loadout because I think it's pretty interesting. Also, this recording's not live. I'll explain why later. I have the gunning helmet and gunning armor, which gives me damage. And then I have the damage trinket and Daybreaker. Daybreaker gives damage as well. And if you add all that up, I actually hit damage maximum against slime on my weapons. See, like that damage max versus slime, but only damage high universal. Without Black Cat, you don't even need Black Cat to get damage max. I also have Pot of Crowns CTR very high because fire is almost mandatory here. And freeze is so bad that Wintergrave is worse than Iron Slug. I ran this run probably like 10 to 20 times solo, trying to strategize as to how, like, you know, the best way to beat the arenas and whatever. I do this run with a mixer, but in my other run I have recorded, I don't use mixer, and instead I use Obsidian Crusher, and that run's actually faster. It's just that in that run I die on the boss because for some reason I'm really bad at the boss fight. But to go over the enemies that you'll see in Ice Queen, there are ice cubes, which you can melt, and then they become super easy to deal with. There are polyps that shoot, I guess. But the most important enemy to be aware of are, in my opinion, the minis. I hate them. The minis, they block your projectiles, and they also deal... No, they're not even weak to shadow. So if you have a mini and you try and Magnus Charge through it, the mini will eat the Magnus Charge up as if it were a wall. Then you won't be able to deal damage. I hate the minis so much. But they also block enemy projectiles. Things like polyps can't shoot through them. Not only is Ash of Agni good for melting the ice cubes, but Ash of Agni does insane damage. I think it's pretty underrated, except for people who run Dreams and Nightmares. They might know how strong it is. Basically, when you place an Ash of Agni down, it always applies 7 ticks of fire if the enemy is inside the radius the entire time. And if it's dealing around 100 damage, that's like 700 to 800 damage you're dealing to one enemy with one Ash of Agni placement. That might not seem like a lot, but it can hit like 5 to 10 enemies at a time, and that's an insane amount of damage. Like if you're hitting 10 enemies, you're dealing over 7,000 damage without even putting yourself in danger, because putting an Ash of Agni down is not dangerous. The fire proc actually only puts 5 ticks on them, but because fire resets its duration when it gets, you know, reprocced, it extends to 7. And not only that, when fire gets reapplied, it always ticks on like the first possible tick. So the spamming Ash of Agni does decent damage as well. It's just a really good weapon, but its damage kind of falls off if you're in a party because the enemy's health goes up so much, but if you're solo, it's actually a really good source of damage. There's an invisible bush right here. You normally want to destroy it so you don't get caught on it later. Don't even try reporting that to Grey Havens, they won't fix it. This arena here has it has 4 waves in total, a 4-wave battle. The first 2 waves are lichens on either side, and then each lichen, when you kill it, it'll spawn its own wave of explosive cubes and ice cubes. So I'm gonna try and take care of these 2 waves first, and then I'm gonna move on to the right side. Now, if you kill this lichen and its matching wave of explosive and ice cube slimes, like the ones that just spawn there, if you kill those, the left side gate will open, but the polyps won't stop respawning. So if you want to do this super efficiently, you can take out this left side of enemies, and then you can just do the left side room, and then you can come back and kill the right side. This is where Obsidian Crusher is better than Mixer, in my opinion. I've used both them a few times, and I just like Obsidian Crusher more, but I don't think I realized it at this point. I still use Mixer because once you have Mixer, you rarely unequip it. There's pretty much no point in the game that I can think of where unequipping Mixer is a good idea. Unironically, I couldn't, even like a Wolver Den. If you're in a Wolver Den, you're not unequipping Mixer because there can be polyps and there can be lumbers. Wow, I play this really badly in this run. keeping enemy placement under control and where you want them to be is super important in Spiral Knights. It's how you manage waves. Obsidian Crusher is good for that, and I don't have Obsidian Crusher here. If you're in a party, you pretty much always want someone to bring it. Also, if you're in a party, make sure no one brings Wintergrave. Make sure everyone brings Iron Slug, because if those ice cubes are getting refrozen, that's a lot more of a threat you have to deal with. So even though there's still that giant lichen colony on the right side, and I've only taken care of 2 of the 4 waves, once I kill that ice cube at the bottom, the gate on the left side will open because I've killed that entire, you know, all the waves on that side of the arena. So once this little guy dies, even though that lichen's still there, I can fight. I can go to the other side, but in this run I take care of both waves from the start, which is okay. I don't have any more sleep vials, which are good for these guys. So I'm probably just gonna... Oh, stun's a pretty good idea. I got unlucky with the RNG on that though. Look at how much damage Mixer's doing. I dash into the wall to avoid taking any damage. Ooh, that polyp shot. The polyp shots are heavily RNG based in this run. Because there's no shield that I have that has piercing and freeze resistance, I have to run this, which has no freeze resistance, and when damage gets dealt to shields, it gets multiplied by a ton if there's a status attached to it, and you don't have the appropriate resistance. Like there it one-shotted again, so that also had freeze attached. If a polyp shot does not have freeze attached, it's gonna do like 1/3 of my shield, not all of it. So that's why status resistance on shield, as in status resistance UVs, are so high in demand compared to like piercing maximum. If I had piercing maximum in this shield, it would probably still get one-shot by the polyp shots. But if I had freeze max or even freeze low, I'd take a lot less damage. That's also why you can only get status resistance UVs on shields from crafting. I should really just be killing these ice cubes. Once they die, then I can kill the polyps. There's just one more enemy. Just like this arena, a lot of the huge fights in the Ice Queen are separated into 2 kind of branching waves, and if you take care of the branches separately, then it becomes a lot easier, especially when it was tier 4 like this. Oh yeah, since this was recorded, Shadow Lairs are not tier 4 anymore. While the scaling on health has been decreased to tier 3 though, the damage and defense enemies have is still tier 4. Which is fine. It just never should have been changed in the first place without touching rewards. We still haven't gotten any actual reason why it happened, despite me pestering the forums. This right side arena is super easy. You just want to deal with the right side enemies, and the left side polyps will never aggro you, ever. So you can comfortably deal with these guys, while the left side enemies just kind of AFK. This is just one big wave. There's no branching waves on this side. Ash of Agni does crazy work here. How many enemies are there? There's at least 10. So yeah, it's dealing 7,000 damage per placement. Which is, like I said, insane. This weapon is crazy. There are a lot of weapons that I've tried in Ice Queen that I just don't think are very good. Things like Umbra Driver. I mean, Umbra Driver can be good. I just think the auto attacks, it's just a worse mixer. And the charge attack would be good, but Grim Repeater just outclasses it. If basic attacks did more damage in these tier 4 Shadow Lairs, then it would be good. But basic attack weapons, like I said in the DFV run, they don't scale as well. I'm not sure if that's changed in the new Shadow Lairs because I haven't played in a really long time. at least we have these legacy runs to commentate over. I do have deathless solos of every single tier 4 shadow lair. I got recordings of them before they were fixed, so I can always commentate over those. I'm pretty sure these are like really boring because it's old. It's just the current shadow lairs, except you shoot enemies for longer durations. But people seem to actually enjoy the DFV one, which is interesting. I don't really know how. These ice polyps, they take 2 autos from Grim Repeater, except they live with a tiny bit of HP, so throughout the run you'll see me put an Ash of Agni down, and then I'll use the Grim Repeater basic attacks. Because if I just went with 2 Grim Repeater basic attacks, it wouldn't kill it. They just live with a sliver of HP, so I use the fire to, you know, remove that sliver of HP first. If I'm in a party, I'll sometimes take Blitz or Callahan to deal with Silkwings, because they're annoying in a 4-person party when the Shadow Lords were tier 4, because they would live through so much damage. And if you have a Callahan, you can snipe them through the rest of the enemies, which makes them easy to deal with. Of course, you could just use a Venom Veeler, or a Curse Vial, or a Poison Vial, or anything else like that. A lot of people that I asked thought Ice Queen was hard after the update, but after I've practiced it a lot, I've realized that if you know how to deal with the waves in every single fight, it becomes like really, really easy. I say that, but I almost died in the first fight, but that's just because I played it terribly. I swear in other runs I do it better. I can't imagine how easy it is now that they've been semi-reverted. For my first few solos, I thought it was like near impossible to do it without dying, but then I figured out that, hey, you can manage these fights much better than I have been in the past. And that's really the... oh, that's not good. That was a bad dash. That's really the problem with Shadow Lairs. They're cool missions, and I think optimizing them requires quite a bit of strategy and teamwork, except no one cares enough to actually optimize Shadow Lairs, because the armors you get from them are 2011 piece of trash, low tier armors. If there were actual rewards or reasons to do Shadow Lairs other than a cool costume, then I think people would actually care enough to strategize. But I can't strategize in a party in Ice Queen unless I tell them exactly what to do, because if someone kills the wrong enemy at the wrong time, they'll spawn the wrong wave of enemies, which makes it harder. I'll show you what I mean in this next fight. In this next fight, there are 2 branches of waves, and I just focus on killing one entire branch, and then I go to the other branch. Normally, if you're in a party, you'll just do both the branches at the same time, and you'll lose track of what monsters are spawning when. So here, the polyps, if you kill them, they'll spawn one wave, and then the ice cubes, if you kill them, they'll spawn a different wave. So you see I put down the Ash of Agni because now my 2 auto attacks will kill the polyps because they're down a sliver of HP. See, you just barely killed it. So I want to kill 2 polyps, but I want to leave the 3rd one alive so I can deal with the waves in a specific order. Not only does this help with the amount of enemies I'm facing, but once I reach the end of this branch, I'll have absolutely no problem with killing the lichen, because there are 2 lichen respawn pads here. And if you let that get out of control, you'll be facing multiple giant colonies at the same time, which is not good. So this would not work in a party because my party member would just kill that polyp and spawn the other branch that I don't want being spawned. But I'm leaving it alive so that I can deal with this. This wave is not scary on its own, but it is scary if you deal with, you know, like 10 other enemies on top of it. Normally this wave would spawn alongside like 2 polyps and a whole bunch of minis and also ice cubes. But dealing with it like this is super easy because there are no minis, so the Iron Slug actually works as intended. Working as intended. That's a new meme in the community because there was interview that Lego Build, well, mostly Fangle did with 2 Grey Havens peoples, and when thank you Fangle for asking about newt damage, by the way. They were asked about newt damage and they said it was working as intended. Working as intended. That's a strange way of saying the word bugged. See, that polyp shot only did half of my shield because it had no freeze attached. But anyway, they were asked about newt damage and they said it was working as intended and that they tested it. That's strange because the tooltip and the stats of the weapon have different values for its damage. And the exact same issue is with another bugged weapon, the black chain gun. If you were ever building Grim Repeater and you realized the 4-star had the wrong damage table, it's because it does, but Grey Havens to say it's a bug. Look here. The only enemies here are the respawning lichens, so I can deal with them super easily while there's only 1 polyp alive. But I think it's safe to say that newt damage is never getting fixed. So we tried our best. Now that I killed that polyp, the wave will spawn. And like I said, 2 polyps and ice cubes. Looks like there are no minis, but there are explosive slimes, which are even easier to deal with. You want to do this arena as fast as possible though, because the lichen respawners put you on a timer. So Ash of Agony is not the best option here, because it takes too long. I think the Shadow Lair was really fun to learn all the ins and outs of all the fights, except it cost me a lot of energy for all the keys I had to use. Because it's not like there's any other video online of people actually strategizing or trying to learn the waves of this Shadow Lair, because it was never worth it, like I said. So it's not like I could find any resource. I had to do it on my own. And it cost a lot of energy. It's not like I use it for costumes or anything anyway. It's also the reason why I haven't played in like 2 months or more now. It's because I don't care about costumes at all. I only care about gameplay. And I've been going on like 9 years now with no new content. Don't even call buffed Shadow Lairs content, because it's not. And after you've gone that long without anything new, except for, you know, costume reruns, but you don't care about costumes, the game becomes very shallow and uneventful and boring. I think these Shadow Lairs were interesting, but they should have definitely increased rewards with them. I might come back to the game to try out the tier 3.5 Shadow Lairs, but I've become so accustomed to the tier 4 that I'm pretty sure they'll just be so easy, it would just be mind-numbing. It'd be like a Vanity run that I'm losing money to play because of Shadow Keys and their implementation. Iron Slug is really hard to use here because the minis will stop my projectile if I ever shoot in the wrong direction. This thing's charge attack does more damage than Mixer because charge attack scaling. I think Mixer Charge would actually deal a lot of damage here, but Mixer Charge often bugs out and doesn't deal damage with its projectiles. This is bad because the lichens are piling up, although that lumber is almost dead. There's a Silkwing still alive. I should really try and kill that. I mean, you could make content for yourself by doing challenge runs. I don't know if I'm a big fan of challenge runs, and I don't think that'd be very interesting to watch at all. Something that could be interesting is like an Iron Man playthrough of the game, where you try and beat the game without taking damage, or you try and beat the game without dying. Without dying would probably be too easy. Something like that. It's just, that idea kind of sounds bad because the progression in this game is hot garbage. So playing through it for content you can't do because it's torture. The orb system, especially elite orbs, pure trash. So maybe that idea is not very good, actually, now that I think about it. Like, what is there that hasn't been done other than actually strategizing shadow layers? I think I actually go to the bathroom here in my actual run. Looks like I'm done using the bathroom, which is great. This depth is stupidly easy, even in tier 4, and that's just because if you know the right strategies, it becomes a walk in the park, which I'm going to be explaining all of the correct strategies when we come across them. I was looking at the Steam charts for the game and they were at like an all-time low. They were a few numbers away from being double digits, which is concerning and also makes me happy, because hopes are that once the game dies, we can create our own servers and actually change balance, because Grey Havens hasn't changed balance for the 7 years since they had the game, which is great. The balance, perfect. No problems at all. It's not like making no changes to balance is a bad thing. There are plenty of games that have gone a long time without any changes that have really in-depth metas, but Spiral Knights is not that. Especially when you consider that Acheron does more damage against undeads than things like Cold Iron Vanquisher, and more damage to everything than Amputator. Some things very unfinished, you could say. But that's the Grey Havens we know and love. Thank you, Grey Havens, for rerunning gemstone boxes. We all love those, right? I'm surprised they even did that interview with Fangle. It was good content, but most of their answers were non-answers. I like the part when they couldn't name the Snarbalax monster. What the hell's that black dog thing? Oh, that's Snarbalax, person who playtested quote-unquote Neutralizer and said it was good. Poor Neutralizer, they did my boy dirty with his damage that gets outscaled by a 2-star Brandish. So sad. There's not any strategy to talk about here. I just shoot things. It's not only strategy that keeps public parties away from beating this without dying, it's also weapons. People bring trash like Antiguas and Pulsars into these lairs, which don't do anything. In case you didn't know, do not ever bring a Pulsar into Ice Queen, ever. That was a nice hit I took there, really paying attention. Every public party I've witnessed, they bring at least one Pulsar and at least one Antigua, and, well, truth be told, you can bring the Obsidian Carbine and do decently. It's just, you bring a Sentenza, you're trolling. And Pulsar is just, you know, knockback bad. And it's not like that's an uncommon occurrence. Every public party I've ran a Shadow Lair with, they've had at least an Antigua or a Pulsar. Antigua is better than Pulsar by quite a bit. Because they don't do knockback, so at least the person being useless isn't being a detriment to your party. They're just doing no damage. But they would deal more damage by putting down an Ash of Agni, even if they had no CDR. Because Ash of Agni is dealing so much damage per placement. And you don't need any damage UVs for it, so they could go full tank, and they could use an Ash of Agni and still deal a ton of damage. Which really puts into question why anyone uses Antiguas ever. I guess they look cool. And you can click a lot of times. This center area is 2 waves. I just deal with the polyps and then everything else. If you kill a silver sap, you have to make sure that it's facing you when you use your Magnus charge. I think I talk about that in my Magnus guide, that enemies take knockback away from where they're looking. You have to make sure lumbers are not looking away from you when you charge, because that'll knock them into you, and silver saps are infamous as being the most dangerous enemy to get hit by in the entire game. Because even if you have a remedy capsule, the stun can lock you into not being able to use it, and so the silver sap can wail on you over and over. This room has quadrants and 1 polyp that spawns on the top. Each quadrant has a button which you do not want to press, and each quadrant also has an invisible barrier that you can walk over to spawn a miniature wave. So first things first, you kill all the enemies in the center. That's all you have to do at the start. You can kill all these minis because only 2 of them are respawning, so it's a great idea to kill them all. Ash of Agni, probably the best way, unless you have a Gromfaust. Back when tier 4 Shadowlers were a thing, people thought sealed swords were really bad, but it's just barely any PvE players know the in-depth heavy sword mechanics. There are only a few people that use them to their advantage, and I've ran with people who use a Divine Avenger as their primary weapon in the Snarblax lair, and they just don't take hits because they're so good at using it and spacing, which is crazy. I wish I could practice, but I need an attack speed increase UV on my Divine Avenger before I go crazy like that. So I walked over the invisible barrier by that button to spawn that wave, but I'm not pressing the button. You don't press the buttons because if you do, all it does is it spawns a mini slime respawner in the center area. You want to press all the buttons once you're done with all of the waves. So I'm going to walk near the button and it spawns the wave. If you're in a party, again, it can ruin this because your party members might press the buttons because, oh, shiny button, I must press it. And then they will. See, I'm waiting for the lumber to turn towards me, and then I fire. And it killed it. Patience. Yeah, your party members might press the buttons, and then it'll spawn mini respawners, and then mini respawners are a pain to deal with in a party, and you're gonna have a bad time. Now it's just 2 more quadrants. Those green slimes are not scaled properly. They're still like tier 1 or something. I'm not sure why. I think it's refreshing to see a run that's done without Black Cat. I just wish I didn't bring Mixer in this run, because then it would be totally without any of that, you know, quote-unquote pay-to-win crap. But doing without Black Cat's fine. It's not even faster if you don't have Mixer, for me at least, because I do this run really slowly. So now that I press all the buttons, you see all the mini respawners have appeared, and then 2 lumber spawn when you hit the last button. And then you just have to kill these. I don't even use the Mixer on these, I use the Iron Slug mostly. Look at the stupid minis. Those are definitely meant to block projectiles, right, Grey Havens? Also, don't bother reporting that, because they will not fix it. They mentioned in the interview that they have 15 to 20 people working on the game. Like, what? Are you... How dumb do you think I am? 15 to 20 people. No way. 15 to 20 people and all you do is rerun reskins. I refuse to believe this. So this room's done, and now just the other 3 remain, and they're all really easy. I don't think there's a single difficult room in this entire depth. People say that the last one's difficult, but if you know how to separate the branches, I don't think it's difficult at all. Hopefully I don't do it, but you can cheese this arena with mixer charge through the wall. You can destroy the ghost block, and then you can just take the key out of the room. But I'd rather experience the lair as it was designed. Even though, you know, tier 4, probably not as it was designed. But I dislike cheesing. And splitting apart the waves is not cheating, it's strategizing, I swear. I take stupid hits here. The only enemies in this wave are the polyps. So you kill the polyps, and then the spikes will never come up for the second wave. Never. They're down permanently once these polyps die. When an iron slug is dealing that much damage, why do you even need a winter grave? This is like insane damage. There's one more polyp alive, I think, on the top right corner. So once that thing dies, the next wave will spawn. The next wave is what? I think it's just lichens and silkwings and lumbers. The best way to deal with this wave is to sit inside here and use Iron Slug, because there are no ice minis, so your charge won't get destroyed by being hit by a wall. Just slapping things with Iron Slug is really good. And if someone has a winter grave, then be prepared to run away, because enemies will get frozen in your face. The lumbers can't hit you over this wall, I believe. They can just knock you back. The only thing you have to watch out for in this wave is the ranged attack from the orange or red lichen colonies. There's a wave that spawns here after you're done the arena. See, it lived with a sliver of HP, that's why you do the Ash of Agni. I didn't have time to here. There we go. Melt them. Now I can go and grab the key after I kill this lad. I think I kill these guys just because they have a chance to drop hearts. At least I think they do. They're not for me, but I bet they can drop hearts. That was a dumb charge attack. Yeah. You don't... You'd never charge attack an ice cube like that, because even if you flinch them, even if you hit a flinch threshold with a charge attack, they'll still do the ground spike. Even if you thaw them out, they'll do the ground spike as well. I think I'm going down here for a capsule. Oh my god, how did I remember that? This is a professional Shadow Lair runner right here. I can't believe I remembered that. Now don't make me look bad, me of the past. Don't take a single hit for the rest of this entire depth. This fight is extremely easy. Your party can screw it up like always though. This first wave spawns when you go near the key, and there are 2 polyps, so use the fire to drop them a little bit so that my 2 basics will kill it. It'll die from fire, so I dash away. And then I got a flash off there, so it dies from fire as well. That's why attack speed increase maximum is important, as well as switching. So you get that juicy flash charge off. Once I enter the next room, another wave will spawn. Iron Slug, big damage. That ice cube did not melt. No, see, look, it used its ground spike attack even though it was melted. That's what I'm talking about. I think it's a bug, because I'm pretty sure it's not supposed to do that. I pointed at the screen as if you could see, hey, look at that guy, he's doing that. Yeah, we can all see where you're pointing, fish. There's a little trick that you can use for this last fight that makes it much easier. I think I use it here. I think I meant to dash, but it got cancelled. There's another capsule though, so it's fine. I got frozen off of that because my shield doesn't have freeze resistance. I'm taking a lot of stupid hits against no enemies here. I guess I am making myself look bad. You want to Ash of Agni these purple boys, and then you want to lock them in that top room. See, they're all locked up there, and they're also damaged. Now, the thing about Silkwings is that they have an infinite aggro range to damaged enemies. They must heal. So look at these dumb idiot Silkwings. It couldn't even find its way through the blocks. But it'll find its way. Come on through. There. And now I wait for them to get locked in. Wait for those blocks to respawn down there. And voila, we've separated the Silkwings from the rest of the enemies. How easy was that? Now, if you're in a party, your teammates will just not cooperate. But this is a great strategy to get the Silkwings out of that fight if you don't have a good source of poison. Or a curse vial. Look at that, look at how easy that was. I do want to kill the polyps at this point. I can kill it with 2 basics. I should go poison the other one with my barrier as well, instead of auto-attacking this. Oh my god, it killed it, how? What? I don't know how that killed it. Good job, poison barrier, you deal more damage than a mixer. Wow. I want to kill the lumber more than anything, because getting hit by a silver sap is death. There's no two ways about it. I quilled the slimes instead of the lumber because if you didn't know, quills just don't work on lumbers. They just don't. It's a bug. Also, don't bother reporting that because it will not get fixed. They don't apply poison and they don't do damage. They just don't do anything. That charge was okay because I was far away enough for the ground spikes not to reach me. The ground spike attack has a really short range. So if you're far enough away and you know you have space, then it's fine to use. But if you're too close, it's dangerous. There's another capsule up here in case I make a mistake, but I probably won't. This bottom left room is the easiest room. I say that, but all the rooms are fairly easy. You just want to find the 4 buttons, and then once you've found the 4 buttons, you just shoot things from behind walls. There's a switch in that explosive block up there, because if there's a switch hidden under a random block in this entire depth, and once you hit it, it unlocks loot at the very end. So that's what its purpose is. So now that I've pressed all the buttons, I can cheap shot everything from behind walls. It's not cheating, it's strategizing. And if you're in a party, you can do this as well. It's not like party members can screw this up. Unless they have a pulsar, and they pulsar spam from behind this wall, which has happened, and made me very angry at the time. This is an extremely slow way of clearing the level, I'm aware. I think I'll want to lay down an Ash of Agni before I go invis to kill the... Oh, I can just kill it with a charge, never mind. And kill this one as well. I'm far enough away so that a ground spike attack won't hit me. And I baited it out. They can do 2 in a row, so you actually want to be careful of that. Just because they used a ground spike attack doesn't mean you should go straight for a charge attack. Because they have like no lag on that. They can just use one back to back. Oh my god, the Vitapod, he's here. Using, or getting a Vitapod is not necessary for this run. Especially if you have piercing defense. You can take so many hits even though the damage is tier 4. And if you have Invis, or even Seraphynx, it's rare. I say that when I've gotten close to dying a few times, but I swear it's not normally like this. The recording software, it must make my frames skip or something. A little tip, when you Grim Repeater a Polyp like that, or any enemy, you want to make sure not to stand too close to them. If I had taken one step closer to that Polyp and then used my Grim Repeater, it wouldn't have dealt damage. Because if you're too close to something, when you use a Grim Repeater, it just doesn't do damage or knockback. That's a big bug. Don't bother reporting that, because it will not get fixed. Oh right, there's a capsule up here. Might as well get those hearts back. So the switch I hit earlier spawns the key that's past these gates that you can use to unlock the loot. Very nice. This last fight is very much like the last fight of the first depth, where it has branching waves. And it's the exact same pattern as well. If you kill the polyps first, it'll spawn the polyp waves, that branch, but if you kill everything else but the polyps, it'll spawn the different branch. I prefer killing the polyps last because when you kill the polyps, the respawning polyps on the left and right will start spawning, but if you kill the other enemies, 2 more ice cubes will start respawning. There are 2 that start off the bat, see the 2 respawners? That ground spike attack only did 30% of my health. If you had Black Cat, that would bring you down to like, that would have dealt much more damage, let's just say that, because the ground spike attack is pure piercing, it's not a split. You see those pips that just dropped on the ground from me taking damage? They were all yellow, there were no red ones, which means that it was pure piercing damage. So Black Cat would do nothing for you. So leave the left side polyp alive. I like leaving the left side one alive, not the center or right, but that's just my preference. Iron Slug just going crazy, and I don't even have damage max against these lumbers. It's only high and it's dealing this much damage. Crazy. Quills do nothing against these guys, so I don't bother using it to poison them, or deal damage because it does neither. Poison Vial would work though. But I think Poison Vials are better used on the later waves. All the waves that you'll see in this fight will seem underwhelming, but you have to remember that in a normal run, people will fight 2 waves at the same time instead of 1 at a time, so things will be a lot more overwhelming. Not a lot more, they will be overwhelming, which is why you see people die so much in this fight, because they have no idea how to split the waves. So now the bottom 2 respawners will start spawning, and there are only 5 enemies in this wave. 6 if you include the polyp. I mean the Silkwing, but I guess if you include the polyp. Ash of Agony, great weapon, like I said. I think the Silkwing will out-heal it though, so the Silkwing has to die. And the minis stop me from being able to use Iron Slug. I should kill that top polyp, I'm not sure why I'm not. A better strategy actually would have been to not damage any of these enemies at all with Ash of Agony and instead just shoot the polyp on the top, because then the Silkwing would separate itself from the enemies and go towards it, and I could kill it then. So I'm probably playing this really poorly. If I had a Venom Vealer or Obsidian Crusher like I normally have instead of Mixer, this would be a lot faster. Mixer is like a pea shooter here, and I can't use Wintergrave because... Oh, I got the Silkwing. Looks like there were no minis to stop my shot that time. All these ice cubes are respawning, so I'm just taking care of the minis right now. The minis are still alive. I want the minis to die. They're one of the biggest threats. Now this wave is the last wave on this branch, and it's usually extremely scary because you fight this alongside giant lichen colonies and 2 other Silkwings normally, as well as the respawning polyps. Which is really bad news, but here it's barely anything. And this is supposed to be the final wave, the big bad wave, and it's nothing. The Silkwing just needs to die and then everything else dies with Ash of Agni. The Silkwing is pretty wide open here. Hopefully I can hit it. I did not hit it. Sad. I waited a split second for the lumbers to face me to deal more damage like before. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to wait until enemies face you. And if you're against a slime and you can't tell when it's facing you, just wait until they start walking towards you. That was a good dash. That's thanks to the attack speed from my gunning armor that I was able to dash away from that hit. Because attack speed impacts how fast charges get pulled off as well. That Silkwing just evaded my charge. Why can Silkwing sidestep? One of the lumbers is dead. And the Silkwing's still alive. I don't know why I haven't killed it yet. Come on, dude, kill the Silkwing. I'm backseat gaming myself. No, man, you have to kill the Silkwing. Silkwings are resistant to fire because they're part of the Fiend family, so Ash of Agni is not that great of a tool for killing it. Only 54 damage, but it died anyway. And it dropped me a health capsule. I don't think I'll be needing that. The only enemies left are the minis, the lichen, and the lumber. And then I can start on the other side of things. Again, if you're looking for efficiency, this is not how you be efficient, because you're killing less enemies at the same time. Okay, now we'll start the other side. You saw when I killed that lumber, even though it was the last enemy, nothing else spawned. It's because that branch is completely exhausted now. I've essentially completed half of the arena, and I haven't even faced anything mildly challenging. And see, this wave would have been, if someone had killed that polyp and then this spawned, it would have healed up the giant lichen colony. I should be trying to combine the 2 yellow ones right now, so there are 2 orange ones in the end, because if they're 2 orange colonies, they can't combine. You saw me take a slight step to the left before I used the charge attack, and that's because if I stayed where I was, it would have not dealt damage, and I probably would have taken a hit. It's happened to me too many times. Put down Ash of Agni so that I can't get hit by ground spikes. That did like no damage to me, that polyp shot, or the lichen shot, because it's pure piercing damage as well. And the armor just helps out so much with that. Oh my god. It slipped past me. If I had a sleep vial right now, it'd be very helpful. Look at that, dealt no damage, but that's because when you Masquerade the Invids, you get bonus defense. And that attack was also pure piercing. No normal damage with it. That Ash of Agni will kill the colony, and then it'll spawn the next wave. And then, see now, the polyps on the left and right are spawning. This wave, by the way, you can use only Ash of Agni and kill it really quickly. Look at the power of Ash of Agni. What happened to that bomb? The server ate it. Ash of Agni. Or in this case, Pot of Crowns. Using the Masquerath ultimate here is actually pretty efficient because there's so many enemies and they have almost no threat. They're all dead now. Good job, Ashevagni. And this is the final wave. I know, right? 3 enemies, what a final wave. No poison proc on that thing. Where's the poison? There it is. Taking a hit here. I can take 4 hits before I die from these things. Maybe 3, not 4. If they were poison, I could take 4. Now I can take 2 more. I'm just... I'm going brain dead Grim Repeater mode because nothing can really kill me anymore. I'm just trying to get through this wave as fast as possible. The run is essentially over at this point, unless I do my classic die on the boss, which has ruined many a recording. Because I don't want to die on the boss, because everyone will make fun of me. Haha, look at this guy. He dies on the easiest boss fight in the entire game. I swear I'm better than that. It's just lag. There we go. And the last enemy is a Silkwing. Scary stuff. It's almost dead. It dodged my charge. It's not dead yet. Perfect. Now the boss fight. I'm not sure why I'm killing these enemies. They don't drop anything. Hurry it up there, guy. Wow, 3 whole radiants, I'm rich. And here's the boss fight. The boss fight, there's only one thing that's unique about it, and it's that the minis here only have 1 HP, so if you lay down an Ash of Agni, it will delete all the minis in the area. So if you want no more minis, you can just lay down an Ash of Agni, and they'll all die and burn. And also a secret slime spawns behind Ice Queen here, so don't go behind Ice Queen immediately because you'll get a nasty surprise by that guy right there. You see him? He's hiding behind Ice Queen. He's on fire now. I take this fight slower than most people because I'm just scared of dying because I always die here and I don't know why. Although from my experiences of dying, I know now that with the attack increase Ice Queen has in her last phase, if she has that attack up and she tackles you, it can go through Sonic mode. It does that much damage. Also, in Tier 4, these explosives dealt more damage than anything else. Explosives did crazy damage. Look at me, I'm almost dying. I'm not kidding when I say I usually die in this boss fight. Alright, all we have to do is kill it. I'm almost dead. Look at me, I'm so bad at this. Just charge it. What are you doing using Vixer? You idiot. I'm putting this down so she can't heal because it just kills all the minis. Goodbye, minis. I did it. I did it. I beat the boss without dying. Thank God. I'm probably not going to commentate over the unknown passage because it's boring. Like, really boring. But that was the Ice Queen run. It looks like I got no radiance at all, but we can take a look at the loot anyway. I'll just skip ahead. That's the end of the Ice Queen run. If you have any other layers that you want me to upload, because I have, like I said, footage of all the other Tier 4 runs, I can commentate over those, but aside from that, thanks for watching.